Can't even sleep. I got so much to say. A lot to talk about with the Houston Texans. News on the field, news off the field, and DeMeco Ryans speaks. Plus, biggest water carrier of all time. Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room.
All right, so we got a lot going on today with the Houston Texans. Let's just get right into it. Locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I've brought two of my best friends, man. I love talking Texans with these dudes. Love talking about anything with these dudes, although one of them kind of disappears and only texts me when he wants to talk crap to me about random things. But whenever he talks about the Texans, it's actually nice to hear, and I'm sure he's got plenty to say right now. It is the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2, Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app. Special guest player straight off the practice field tomorrow. Not sure who yet, but it will be someone good. They always give us someone good. I'm not even going to bury the lead. I'm going to bring in Cody Stutes from Houston Football and YouTube, and KPRC2 this weekend. Although he wore jeans, I was a little bit disappointed in him. I think he thought he was still in West Texas. But Cody Stutes is here, and Mike Meltzer, Mad Dog Radio, and a practicing attorney who only likes to text me when he wants to talk crap. Mike, how you doing, sir?
That point about Cody's jeans is an excellent point. I had the same exact thought on Sunday.
Man,
great point.
I was waiting to get an update on six-man football instead of the Texans with those damn jeans up there.
Well, when you watch me on Texans Extra Points on ABC 13 Saturday night, you'll see that I'm not wearing jeans.
What's that?
When you see me on Texans Extra Points on ABC 13 Saturday night, I won't be wearing jeans.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Fair. Good move.
I've improved the wardrobe in one day because I heard about it from, well, you.
Yeah.
Can Mike improve his lighting, please? He still looks like he lives in a dungeon.
I thought it's much better now. It's been way worse than this. Way worse.
It has.
It's been way worse.
Am
I too dark? Other commenters are saying I'm too dark.
No, you're good. Yeah, you're a little bit dark, but it could be worse, man. You could look a lot worse.
Oh, come on. Come on.
I think they got you at a bad angle, Cody.
Oh, that's the nicest way anybody's ever called me a fat ass ever.
No, I think you've done a good job. I feel like you've been eating healthier. You're hitting the gym. I think they got you at a bad angle.
They got me at a bad angle. Yeah, the camera adds 10 pounds. Just happened to be 30 cameras on me.
So let's get right into this this Texans thing we got going on right now. We'll get into the Bryce Young thing. We'll get into probably the worst display of sacrificing your dignity that I've seen in a long time. You want to just get into that? You don't even want me to tease you. Let me just get right into that.
I'm afraid of whose Twitter account you're going to pull up.
No, so Deshaun Watson suspended for the season. Obviously, like when this happened, my first thing was to look at it through localized lenses, and my whole thing was, I could realize how far the Texans have come because I immediately thought about the playoff chase, and I immediately thought about the game on Christmas Eve, and then the draft pick became like a secondary type of thing for me. And for me, like we've already been in a good season and all that. Like it's already been like an enjoyable season. But as soon as this happened and that was my mindset, I realized, okay, the Texans are having a hell of a season. But the biggest display of silliness, and I'll get y'all's takes on this, and obviously we can discuss what it means for the Texans and all that. But the biggest display of just like water carrying that I've seen in a long time, and I was glad Florio kind of called this out, was Tom Pelissero. I mean, come on, brother. Like QB Deshaun Watson wanted to be shot up and play through the injuries, and he sought multiple medical opinions per sources But doctors were clear. If he got hit again in the same spot, the shoulder could fall apart. Now he's having surgery in 2023. Give me a damn break, man.
This actually didn't bother me that much.
No,
Did it bother you, Cody?
He didn't want to get shot up.
Well, we talked about this though earlier in the season.
But I'm not questioning his toughness. I just come on, that's just silly.
I mean, who knows what the details are? But we talked about this maybe a month ago or so. I've never, say what you will about Deshaun Watson, the player and the person, I've never questioned the toughness. Play with a torn ACL at Clemson.
Me neither. But I don't think he likes football as much as in those days either.
So you think he doesn't like football as much?
No, I don't. And I know that's I said that.
That's a big statement.
No, I said that in 2020. I said that in 2020 when he was still a member of the Texans. It's on record. I think he values money more now. I think he has bad outside influences. I think that he has really a bad influence where if you listen to the way that Quincy Avery talks and the way that he says stuff, I think it's kind of rubbed off on him at this point. And I don't think he likes football as much as he once did. And quite frankly, whether you like football or not, you're going to get shot up and risk your shoulder. No, I don't believe that. No one else reported that. So these guys get favors. Tom Pelissaro better get the next big news from whoever he did that favor for.
Here's my thing about Deshaun Watson. Remember earlier in the season where the medical staff cleared him and then he said he wasn't good enough to play? Where was the toughness then? Where was the I want to go out there and play then? Where was the I'll play through it then? When the medical staff was like, he's fine. And Stefanski had to go out there and be like, yeah, the medical staff, he's fine, but Deshaun, knows his body.
I thought that was a terrible job by Cleveland because of what I just mentioned. I don't question Deshaun's toughness. And then when he went out there against Indianapolis, those first 5 throws a few weeks ago, he looked awful. Worse than Tommy DeVito level awful. Then he had to take the week off. And then when he came back, he looked more like an actual real live human quarterback as compared. So when I looked at that whole sequence, I thought that was just a terrible PR job by the Browns for no reason whatsoever.
I think I agree with you. I obviously they handled it bad, but the whole thing's been weird. It's been a disaster. There's the Texans. It almost seems like they're getting lucky now where,
oh yeah.
Which is weird because now, I don't care if Kenyon Green's good or not. The fact that you traded Watson when you did, I think you've kind of gotten to where you got lucky. And I don't even I'm not an anti-Deshaun guy or anything like that. I just the way that this whole thing has gone down, I don't. These draft picks could suck, and you're going to be fine. It's not. It's almost like the fact that you were able to get rid of him now is like a miracle.
Well, for me, what's remarkable is I remember the day the trade demand came down, and it was like, God, the world is coming apart. I mean, if you ran a simulation of this 100 times, guys, I feel like in 95 of them, what would have happened was, let's say he had settled that first case, not to bring too much of that into it, but let's say he had settled that first case and none of those other lawsuits came out and they just had to trade him somewhere like Miami, and then he continued being Deshaun Watson, then they would look like just the worst organization just ever. And to have something like that happen, to have a franchise quarterback want him to leave and have to allow him to leave, and they then be sitting there for whatever the next couple of years we're going to look like. The fact that we're sitting here 2.5 years later and Deshaun has been disgraced, he has been mediocre at best, largely bad on the field. Now he has injury questions moving forward. And oh, by the way, the Texans have basically the talk of the town at quarterback in the NFL right now. I can't think of too many sequences like this when you think about January 2021 to right now.
So many different trades in the NFL. You see where teams just kind of mutually benefit or, mutually the trades don't work out great. I think about Khalil Mack with the Raiders situation when they moved on from him. Those picks didn't do much for the Raiders. They're a disaster. And Khalil Mack didn't put the Bears over the top. Sometimes those trades work out that way. And not that the Texans have done anything amazing with the Browns draft pick, because obviously they used one of them to move up to go get Will Anderson. But it's just fallen. I thought about this today. If it was just the draft capital, this would be a little bit easier to stomach for Cleveland, but it's the draft capital and a totally unnecessary, record-breaking, nothing's come close to it contract that just has to sit in the craw of Clevelanders and adds to the pain and misery of that other team that now has Deshaun Watson, and then the Texans, as Mike laid it out, are just basking in the glow of CJ Stroud's, budding stardom.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like it's just a weird that lucky things happen to the Texans. What do y'all make of? Got Meltzy and Stutes with me here in the locker room. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. What do y'all make of the Bryce dialogue now? I guess there's the video of Panthers owner Dave Tepper making the rounds, and he's basically saying they agreed to a trade. They were going to have the number 2 pick. The Texans backed out, yada, yada, yada. This is kind of on the aftermath of John McClain saying what we've been saying around here for months. And I'm not sitting here trying to be one of those weirdos who says, "Oh, the local media knows what's going on in the national media." I'm not saying that, but like we've just kind of known this for a while. We've kind of heard it. But why would he even put that out there at any time? Like, what does he think is what's the benefit of that?
I'm not sure about the answer to your question. I got to think about it. So that video that resurfaced today, that was from 6 months ago. Is that right, Landry? The Dave Tepper?
I believe it was from after the draft.
After.
But that doesn't make it any less weird.
Yeah,
like,
that's fair.
The whole thing is like if sometimes if you think a video happened today or yesterday or something like that, and it actually happened 6 months ago, like the context makes it okay. Well, maybe he was saying this, but even then, what was the point of that? Like, what is he benefiting from that? I think it's emerging now because the McClain with Steve Weich, where he said that the Texans would have taken Bryce, that's being thrown out there. But the Bryce dialogue right now is kind of interesting. And I just don't understand. I'm glad I don't have to try to make sense of like poor ownership or upper level management decisions anymore around here.
Done plenty of that in recent years.
Done a ton, but I don't know what is going on with that. Like, how is that supposed to make them feel?
My speculation is it's Panthers fans and even Panthers media saying, if our owner doesn't get involved and push it all the way to 1,
we have number 2 and they have Bryce, so that's the thing. Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, you're it's basically a dunk on the owner and a dunk on the billionaire that, hey, if you just not got involved, then we know the Cardinals were moving the 3rd pick, so the Bears do something else with 1, the Texans pick at 2, and then we get the 3rd pick, and we maybe have CJ Stroud or we have a different quarterback. But yeah, it was just a dunk on the owner. That's why it's resurfacing, because the rumors are that he got involved. He basically said it in the clip, like, I got a little impatient, pushed it forward. Like, it's just a dunk on the owner that, you know what? You can't get him fired, though. So good luck dunking on him as much as you want.
Now,
is it the conventional wisdom that Tepper kind of pushed them to Bryce Young? Because, like, I saw Diana Rossini of The Athletic, like, she puts out like rumors or whatever every weekend. And hers this past weekend were, at least according to her sources, that did not happen in Carolina. That this was that like a ton of people in the Panthers organization were in on Bryce Young. And for the record, if I were the Texans and had the number 1 pick, I would have taken Bryce Young. I know Landry would have. I don't know what Cody would have done.
Yeah, I would have as well.
I would have, yeah.
And I've been dead wrong. We've all been dead wrong.
Talking to Pendergast about it, and I acknowledge that obviously you got CJ and it seems to be good, but I think Bryce would be okay here. I don't think that he would be doing as good as CJ. I don't want to minimize what CJ is doing. I don't think he's like Brock Purdy or something like that that's benefiting from an ideal situation. But I think that the Texans have developed like a decent situation for a quarterback. Like, so I don't feel like shamed in saying that. Like, I don't think the Texans are the worst team in the league with Bryce Young.
I mean, part of the reason they've failed in Carolina is pass protection, and the Texans' pass protection outside of those first 2 weeks has been everything that you could have wanted it to be for an offensive line as expensive as it is.
Yeah, and I think, like, obviously CJ, thank God they got him. I mean, that's common sense. But
It's just become clear watching CJ Stroud that most of his career at Ohio State, the way he played and the way he played at Ohio State, that was one version of him, and that the NFL version of him is a lot closer to that Georgia game version where he can just make things happen. He can improvise. He can play within the system. He can make plays to guys when they get open. And then when he needs to use his legs, when he needs to extend plays, when he needs to move plays within the operation of the system, he's just got that ability. So he's a lot closer to that Georgia guy. And look, ultimately when Bryce Young gets going, he'd be probably closer to that Alabama guy we've seen. Like there weren't a lot of games where Bryce Young just looked clueless at the football, at playing football.
I look at some of the guys who I respect a lot, like Daniel Jeremiah and those types. And when I look at Bryce, like it's clear that there are a lot of systemic fundamental issues there. That offensive line sucks. They have they have no explosion at all as far as their weapons. Like nobody can actually, break a tackle, go deep, beat anybody. And that's a huge issue. But Bryce also, and Jeremiah pointed out this week with some film stuff, like he's got to get rid of the football. He's got to be quicker. And so almost the opposite point of what Cody made about CJ Stroud. Bryce, to me, like the guy that we saw last year against Texas in the bowl game, like that guy we saw the last 2 years, I know is a different level, but like I haven't seen that guy except maybe in like slight flashes. And I think it's fair to say that at this point, when I was on the air on Sunday night, I had Cody on as well. Like, let's put it this way. I know we're only 9, 10 games into their careers, but this part right here is undeniable. What I'm about to say, this is undeniable. If the Panthers called the Texans and said, hey, we'll trade you Bryce Young for CJ Stroud, like you're not even entertaining that call. No. And if it was flipped,
no.
Yeah, like I'm not saying their careers are over. Like we're 9 or 10 games in, but that hypothetical, like that is true.
The Bears aren't trading the pick to him. Like if yes. At this point, like if you do a redraft, the Bears are not trading that pick. They're taking CJ Stroud, and that's a wrap. Like so, yes. It's not even a matter of like if the hindsight thing. Like we're sitting here talking about this hindsight thing, and thank God for Lovie Smith and all this type of stuff. If people knew what they knew right now, the Bears, either the Bears are taking CJ Stroud, or they're trading that for way more than they traded it for, because what CJ Stroud has done so far is like you can't even question it. Like it's insane. Like it's ridiculous. It's like nothing we've ever seen. Like he's arguably the best rookie quarterback of all time. Like at this point, like with where he's at. So yeah, you cannot question that. But I think that sometimes whether it's in the comments here, appreciate y'all for coming through. Be sure to like as well. Or it's on the text line during the show, like a lot of people are acting like the goalposts are getting moved. And there's a lot of weirdos now that just like their whole goal in life is to dunk on people for past takes. Quarterbacks make dumbasses of everyone. Like I wanted Bryce Young. Okay. Like that's fine. Like Tom Brady went to the 6th round. Joe Montana went to the 6th round. Like quarterbacks make fools of us all. We said it at the draft, but the reality of the situation is like nobody knew that CJ Stroud was going to be this good. Like nobody knew that CJ Stroud was going to be as good as he's been right now. And we couldn't have even like remotely imagined that this was going to happen. Like this wasn't normal.
No. And I mean, I think honestly, we might be a made field goal against Georgia away from CJ Stroud going number 1.
And I don't know if I agree with that either. Like, I don't like if people are that simple to where they would have judged him different based on winning the championship, that I don't trust the scouts. But the goalpost moving thing for me is this: like before the draft, no one was saying that the Texans had a good situation. Like no one was saying that the Texans had a good situation. And you know what? They've kind of shown that they have an okay situation. Now, is a lot of it CJ made? Is CJ the straw that stirs the drink? He's won games with every single one of his main receivers out. He's won games with every single offensive lineman out. Yes, but you can also develop a good, stable organization along the way. That's not moving the goalposts. Like, it doesn't have to be either or. It can be both. Like, Patrick Mahomes can be awesome, and he can be a Kansas City Chief. And it can be like a perfect mix of organization. Like, it can happen. So there's not like when you talk about what the Texans situation is right now, like going back to before the draft, when you had effing people saying that they should give Lovie Smith another year and acting like that's like some sort of some sort of like representation of what the organization was. Like, it's silly. Like, it's silly. I would rather have both instead of just having to have some sort of battle between one or the other.
What is Frank C talking about was Michigan cheating against Ohio State? Bunch of nonsense. By the way, if you check my Twitter, this is verified. See, if you actually watched the last 2 Ohio State Michigan games, CJ Stroud played well in both games. Their issue was not their offense against Michigan's defense. That was not their issue. On a side note, I just want to bring that up to defend my people.
Landry, to add on a little bit of about the 52 around the quarterback. It's interesting because even if you believe CJ Stroud was the second best quarterback, like a lot of people did in this draft, and you believed he eventually was going to be good, then the situation was still rated as one of the worst situations. Carolina's situation was not rated as a great situation. Like, there was some hope there. Like, a lot of people liked the Frank Reich situation as a head coach, and he brought in a solid staff, and there was some hope for a little bit of that offense. But even Carolina and Houston, you think about what they were supposed to be from a Vegas standpoint and from an expectation standpoint, they both were rated really low. And now you see what the Texans are doing, and it's clear that a lot of people, and I'm certainly one of them with some of the success that this offense has had, underrated what the Texans had put together from an organizational standpoint. And, oh, by the way, the quarterback just seems to be generationally special.
Yeah, he's doing his thing. The Bryce stuff is really, really interesting. Let's get into this this practice report, this injury report. So we have Dameon Pierce did not practice. Jimmy Ward didn't practice. Noah Brown did not practice. Hanson, To'o, Brevin Jordan, Laramie Tunsil did not practice. Woods, I said Suds, but obviously I mean Woods.
So
what takeaway here? You were there.
So Robert Woods at practice, not dressed out. Laramie Tunsil at practice, not dressed out. Those other names that you see as the DNP, not at practice, not there, not working out. So that's something that I think is, it's been a veteran day off for Robert Woods and Laramie Tunsil on Wednesdays. I'm not worried about either of those guys missing the game until they miss a Thursday or a Friday. So expect that DNP for Woods and Tunsil for basically the rest of the year. When you see that pop up on a Thursday or Friday, that's when you get worried about those guys. It doesn't feel like Jimmy Ward and Noah Brown are that far off just based on some of the stuff I saw, like them kind of walking around and leaving the practice field and things like that. I don't know if they're going to play this weekend, but I don't think we're looking at some sort of long-term absence on Noah Brown and Jimmy Ward. Some of those other players that you mentioned, they're backup players, they're depth pieces.
How does Dameon Pierce fit into this thing now?
The thought was that it was going to be a little bit of a shorter absence. Now, I don't know how exactly he fits back in. He's sort of that hammer, 3rd and 1. Maybe you hand him the ball, but Devin Singletary didn't have any trouble against the Bengals. Now, Landry, credit to you. You brought up probably, I think it was Monday of last week. You said, feels like they're going to run the ball well against this Bengals team. Bad rushing defense, and it feels like they're pretty close. Singletary didn't have hardly any trouble. He looked good. The line looked good. Everything around it looks good. So it's like, it's one of those, hey, don't mess up what you got going if it's a good thing. It's just, let's see if you can do it week after week after week. Like, the consistency on this rushing attack has not been good. You think about Pittsburgh. They ran the ball well against Pittsburgh, and they could have run for the next couple of weeks of the season. So,
Weird thing to me, unless I've missed it, have we had like actual reports about like when Dave? Because one thing I find interesting, this seems like it's happening more in the NFL, is that guys finish games and then they miss the next week. Like I was watching a video of Nico Collins like walking off the field against Tampa where he played and then he misses like the next week. Like Noah Brown was obviously on the field for the second to last play of the game because he made maybe the biggest play of the game, and then he might be out on Sunday. Like, were there reports originally about like Dameon Pierce has a 3-week injury and this is what it is? Or is it just kind of a day-to-day, and same thing with Brevin Jordan? Or is it more of a day-to-day, week-to-week kind of thing?
You asked about different levels of importance from the player. Like Brevin Jordan, I don't know.
Yeah, fair. But Dameon Pierce more important. Yeah, theoretically.
With Pierce, I wonder too with like some of these injuries. The guy wakes up the next day, it's throbbing, it's hurting. You go out to test it, it doesn't bounce back well, it doesn't respond well. Like these guys, like I think it's like I don't want there to be a misconception. Just because it's did not practice doesn't mean that they're like laying in the recovery room getting recovery. Like these guys do workouts, they work out on the side field, they do running, they do drills, they do all these different things to sort of test their injuries. And then it's how they react, how the body bounces back from those that a lot of time determines if they can go back out there the next day. And I feel like there's been a lot of that from some of these DNP guys. You know, not to it's a concussion. The NFL's very strict about those things. You know, you can do like some light stuff, but like some of these guys work out on the side fields and then they're not there for practice. Like they work out before practice, they're done. They go get treatment while practice is going on. Like it's not like guys just sit in the treatment room the entire time when they're hurt. So I think a lot of it's just been, it's not responding well. And you think about an ankle with what they require out of Dameon Pierce, that feels like something that could keep him down for longer than a week, which was, I feel like a lot of people thought that he'd be back pretty quick.
But how does he fit when he comes back?
He fits in that running back 2 slot when you need him.
But the weird part is when you think about Dameon Pierce stylistically, you don't think about like number 2 back, right? Because he's more like, you don't think of Dameon Pierce as like, hey, let me throw this guy out there on third downs. You're thinking more of what Cody mentioned earlier. Like he's the hammer, he's the physical guy. Obviously, like the whole thing with him is going to be, does he really fit the system? It's been a very down second year. Maybe I'm being completely naive on the following point. Is there anything to the idea that maybe with a guy like him, he sits for 2 weeks, he sees what's happening, and maybe he has a slightly better sense of what he should be doing? Or is the vision thing just, hey, if you're in the game, like Devin Singletary simply is a better runner and a runner for this system than Dameon Pierce is? I guess we'll find out.
I mean, I think it's a committee. I just wonder what the committee looks like. I think there's going to be a larger chunk of pie for Devin Singletary for sure. And I mean, I kind of think probably saw that in the offseason, like if we're being honest. I mean it's not like they ran the ball well against Tampa the week before. And so I think Pierce,
that's because Tampa has a 500-pound defensive tackle who's an animal.
They do. But to the point that like Dameon Pierce retains value anyway, in that, you know, he can break tackles. Like
he has value. Like I'm not saying he doesn't have value. I just think that Singletary has more value.
What you're really asking, Landry, is do you trust Bobby Slowick to use Devin Singletary and Dameon Pierce together when they're both healthy? I think it's what you're really asking. I do. It might take him a week to figure out exactly the mix, but I trust him. Now that Singletary's got it going.
I think it clearly has to be when, like, let's say both guys are 100% or close. It's got to be more of a 50-50, 60-40 kind of deal as compared to where it was the first 4 weeks of the season, right?
I'm always in favor of hottest hand goes. So
you would go even heavier in the direction of Singletary.
Absolutely. Till he cools off, and then I'd run the other guy out there. And then when he cools off,
player of the week, man.
And then when he cools off, I'd put the other guy back out there.
Offensive AFC player of the week. So Denzel Perryman, he got his suspension reduced to 2. They heard they had the hearing. Mike, what was your thoughts on Devin Singletary? I already given mine. What were yours
on Perryman? Yeah, I think I'm kind of with the JJ Watt end of things, I think the NFL steals money from its players. Like, I don't understand why every Saturday it's like, hey, this guy's fined 15 grand. This guy's fined 25 grand. Like, are we only okay with this because football players make, quote unquote, a lot of money? Like, I don't know how many other businesses this, is allowed to happen, especially for things that are not, egregious, like, like Draymond Green putting a guy in a headlock. Like, I'm talking about things that happen on the football field. If you put it this way, if you had asked me on Sunday night, hey, Mike, do you think Denzel Perryman is going to be suspended for 3 games? My answer would have been, gosh, that never occurred to me. Like, so that's my opinion on the 3-game suspension. That's the best way I can put it.
I didn't even. Here's another question. Does Denzel Perryman know that he was even close to being suspended?
Dude, when someone told me he got suspended, I was like, did he do roids? Did he
that was my immediate thought.
Domestic dispute? Like, I don't know.
He's yoked.
We were literally on the air and our boss came in and he goes, hey, did y'all see the news? And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, Perriman got suspended. And pulled up Twitter. I guess it had happened like 3 minutes earlier. I was like, oh, okay, what did he do? Well, I guess he was rough or like rough on the football field. And I was like, okay, like, I guess, like, if the NFL wants to make that happen, that's fine. But I automatically assume, like, okay, yeah, he does look jacked. He has his shirt rolled up. He's got like a 12-pack. Like, maybe he's on the roids or something like that. I didn't think that he was being rough. And furthermore, if we're going to start letting receivers slide when they run the ball, that's putting a lot of guys in a lot of like weird positions. Yeah. Like I've seen some like egregious hits, like more egregious hits from Denzel Perryman. But if Jamar Chase is just allowed to run and slide like inside the red zone, like what are we doing?
That bothered me too, because initially when I first in the live saw the play, I was like, the wide receiver can't slide. Like, he can't give himself up like that. That doesn't seem like that's something that should be allowed in the NFL. And then you see like literally like textbook show the video, don't do this, crown of the helmet from Denzel Perryman. It's like, okay, I see why they threw the flag. Like, I mean, does this keep Denzel Perryman from crushing somebody against the Denver Broncos when he's back in the lineup?
That's what I'm most concerned about. Like, does he change the way he plays now?
I'd hope not. That guy's the thumper. He got a bogus ass unsportsmanlike or unnecessary roughness on a tackle a couple weeks ago too. Like, he thumped somebody on like 3rd down or 2nd down right at the line of scrimmage, and the line judge was 25 yards away, threw the flag on him. And I thought that was bogus too. I wonder if there's I wonder if the league office has like a hit list of guys that hit too hard that referees look extra at.
Well, they have to. I mean, there's got to be a reputation, but there's also like a pecking order, like the ghost of Kareem Jackson and Denzel Perryman. That's who you drop the hammer on.
I was just going to mention Kareem because when I watch some of the Kareem hits, like, I like Kareem, but like the last hit, and what I find interesting is like the Kareem suspension was 4, then reduced to 2, Perryman 3 down to 2. I thought the Kareem Jackson hits were actually like the last one. I was watching that live and I'm like, man, I think they might like have to like sideline him for a while because this is like pretty rough. I never thought that for a second with Denzel Perryman. That's the way I thought watching him. I thought Perryman has been just a little bit unlucky.
Yeah, and he got an example made of him. Now, the Texans are 3-0 without Perryman, which is kind of funny. And they haven't played like some crappy teams. They beat the Saints, they beat the Jags, and they beat the Steelers without him. So they're 3-0 without him. He has his limitations. You want to platoon him, but man, I always think it's funny when like the McLeans of the world are like, so, hey, you lost $350,000 and all this. Yeah, that sucks, man. But
yeah. That is a lot of money.
Hell of a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Hell of a lot of money. I got to confess something to y'all, and I want y'all to tell me, and y'all are going to laugh because there have been times where I've kind of disrespected this guy when probably I should have respected him more, at least based on where he was at and what he was thought of. Now here he is. He's making his return. He's had one game under his belt. And all of a sudden, I find myself, and I've watched the young man since he was in high school. Went and saw him in person, seen him in college, seen him in the pros. Didn't even know if he was going to be a part of their future plans. Kyler Murray scares the hell out of me. I don't know what it is, but for some reason in this situation, with how scrappy this Arizona team is, with everything Kyler Murray's gone through, and the stuff that he said, and what this Texans defense is, Kyler Murray scares the hell out of me. And it seems like DeMeco has a lot of respect for Kyler as well when he speaks. Dude, you can kind of speak to that because you talk to DeMeco every time that he speaks. It seems like he respects the F out of Kyler Murray.
I just feel like he yes, I agree with you. And the respect level comes from Murray possesses something that other mobile quarterbacks just don't possess. And that's elite top end speed. I guess Lamar to an extent has it, but even then, Kyler, when he gets going, it's something that's incredible to watch. And I was going back and looking through, just kind of seeing, like, what can you take from the past? What can you take from paying attention to previous matchups that maybe DeMeco Ryans as a defensive coordinator's had against Kyler Murray? And they've only matched up when DeMeco is the DC once. And it was in 2021. Kyler's been hurt for the rest of them. And Kyler had like 236 yards passing and 1 rushing yard on 7 attempts. And they won the game. Like they won the game because Trey Lance played so terribly for the 49ers. And it's like, okay, well, let's look at some of the other ones. But then I got to thinking, I'm like, well, that was a totally different offense with a lot more skill position players that you've heard of and you know of and you pay attention to. And it's like, I have nothing to go off of. I have nothing to expect from Kyler Murray. It could be something totally new and different than what he's put on tape the past 4 or 5 years of his NFL career, because it's a brand new offense. It's a brand new head coach. It's a brand new group of players around him. Like, there's just not a lot to go off of. So it's like, okay, are they just going to go let Kyler go out there and just, paint from the quarterback spot? Like, he could paint something pretty abstract and incredible if you just let him go.
Yeah, that is the other thing. That's the other point, is that we haven't seen like what they're going to do and how they're going to use him and stuff. He's just, he's one of the best athletes of my lifetime. Like, I don't know how else to put it. He's just one of the best athletes of my lifetime. And he's one of the 4. It's just kind of a little bit scary for me.
He's one of the most successful, the NFL career notwithstanding this point, he's one of the most successful football players of all time. Like,
wait, what?
Because he was incredible in high school. Landry, I think you know the number off the top of your head. What, one loss in 3 seasons, 4 seasons?
0
losses. Yeah. So like,
never lost.
And then, it fails at A&M. He goes to a new school and is incredible.
But most football players of all time, I think probably a lot of guys have done that.
That might be going a little far, but I get the genesis of the point.
Well, he never lost in high school. He won a Heisman Trophy. So, how much more successful do you need to be?
Well, he could have won a national championship, maybe 2. He could have, he hasn't gotten deep into the playoffs.
Geez, I guess Tebow's the only successful guy ever.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
you got to win 2 national championships to be successful, Michael?
How about do anything?
On one of them.
They got their doors blown off by LSU, although I don't know that it was his fault. I'm just saying. I get the spirit of the point. He's scared. Well, what was clear, he scares me, as Landry said. What was clear, because I watched a decent amount of the game against Atlanta. I don't know how prolific they were through the air, but what was very clear was athletically, Kyler looks like he's back to 100%. Like that play he made, scrambling around,
4th down.
Yeah, the 4th down, like running, like that looked like classic Kyler. And then he hit McBride for the big play to set up the game-winning field goal. So, yeah, and obviously in the practice, they're going to institute their rules. You got to contain, but it's one thing to practice it. It's another thing to do it. Yes, this has a little bit of the same feel to me as before the Carolina game, except that this game is a home game. So I feel a little bit better about that part of it.
Damn.
I just have a healthy amount of fear of him.
Kyler went for 308 and 2 touchdowns, another 100 rushing yards against Bama in his final college game ever. Mike thinks he sucks.
Yeah,
No, he had a very good college career.
Harsh crowd, man.
Jeez.
Very good college career. I just don't know about one of the most successful football players ever. I might take some issue with that, but we'll see.
I mean, he never lost a game in the highest level of football in the state of Texas, Mike. There's two states that are even close.
How many games could he have lost in high school? How many could he have lost? 5, 3? How many were close?
That's an irrelevant question because he didn't lose any.
I know that, but they're only a certain.
What a dumbass question! How many games could he have lost?
Well, if you're playing at that level,
what kind of question is that?
I think it's a great question.
That would get objected to in court. The judge would throw you out of court, Michael.
How many games?
How many people could this person have murdered? It's like, objection, Your Honor. What the hell does this have to do with anything?
How many games does Allen play each year that they conceivably could lose? I don't know the answer to the question, by the way. I'm just asking the question.
Good Lord. So Texans right now, 58% chance to make the playoffs. Do you think the Texans make the playoffs? Yes or no?
I think they make the playoffs because I believe in the head coach, and I just think they have so many winnable games on the schedule that if CJ stays healthy and plays anywhere near this level, I think they'll get it done, even in this very competitive conference.
I do believe they're going to make the playoffs, and I believe they're going to be the 3rd or the 4th seed. I believe they're going to win the division as well.
Okay, so you think they're going to win the division?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Okay. How does that lay out? Do you think?
Well, you beat Jacksonville in 2 weeks, and at that point, you just have to go blow for blow with them for the rest of the year, and you have the tiebreaker against them, so you don't have to necessarily, finish way ahead of them because they have some sort of tiebreaker or anything like that. And you just look at who the Texans have left and where some of those teams are and where some of those teams could be when you play them versus what Jacksonville's dealing with. And it's not drastically different, but in the final month, Jacksonville's got a Baltimore team that's playing for playoff seeding. They've got a Tampa team that probably has a bunch of guys trying to hang on to their job at that point. If Todd Bowles is still, if the Panthers ever figure anything out, that's a final week of that's one of the final 2 weeks of the season for the Jaguars. Now they should win some of those games. Like I'm not talking about like the Texans, 2 of their final 4 games against the Tennessee Titans that could be, worried about Mike Vrabel being the coach of the Patriots. Will Levis the NFL could catch up to him by then. And then the final game of the year is the Indianapolis Colts. That's not a team that I'm expecting to be playing for a playoff spot in week 18. So you look at 3 of the final 4 games, you should have a pretty good matchup there if you're the Texans, not to mention the fact that you should be favored in the next 3 games that you play, Arizona, Jacksonville, and Denver. I know Denver's played a little bit better of recent weeks, but you've got enough to beat the Denver Broncos. So you start looking at that. The Jets are sandwiched in there. That's a tough defense. That's DeMeco's guy, Robert Saleh, but you got a quarterback they don't. You should be able to be competitive in that game. Like some of the stuff we've seen the past 2 weeks should lead you to believe that you kick a lot of those teams' asses.
Are you that confident, Landry?
I think they make the playoffs. I'm like the division. I think there's a chance Jacksonville loses this week. This just kind of feels like a Mike Vrabel win. This feels like the kind of game that Mike Vrabel wins.
That would surprise me given how awful the Jaguars were last week.
How many times has Mike Vrabel surprised you, though?
Oh, a lot. Yes.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I feel like the Texans are a playoff team, and the division. I think it rests in 2 weeks. Like they gotta. I think it really comes down to this week. I think they got to win this game, and then you can start thinking division. But I think there's a chance Jacksonville loses this week, to where it's for the outright lead in the division 2 Sundays from now. Could be wrong. Been wrong many a times. Been right a few times. But I feel like this could be a game that Jacksonville loses.
The tough part of getting to that Jacksonville matchup is if you do lose to the Jaguars in 2 weeks, mean, you might be going to the third, fourth, maybe fifth tiebreaker on this, because I would think that the division record between the two teams is going to be pretty damn similar when it's all said and done. So, it'd be paramount to make sure you own that tiebreaker over Jacksonville.
I was just going to say, I don't think there's any – I know, Cody, you went through the Jacksonville schedule. I think there are just so many winnable games on their schedule too, minus the Baltimore one, which is obviously very difficult, that to win the division, I think that Houston – I think they have to win the Jaguars game in the following week. I think that's a must to win the division. They're not good enough to lose that game and then overcome it in the others.
Could see that. Fellas, appreciate you for rolling through. It's been fun. Haven't talked to Melty in a while. He just likes to troll on the text.
I don't troll that much. I think maybe what it is I need more of an outlet for my brilliant random thoughts, questions, analyses.
Okay.
None of them are brilliant.
Yeah.
I think a few of them are brilliant.
Yeah, let's be serious.
One or two are brilliant.
Let's be serious. All right. Fellas, appreciate you. Holler at you. Happy footballing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Meltzer, Cody Stutes here. Let's hear what DeMeco Ryans had to say earlier today. Here's the head coach of your Houston Texans meeting with the media types.
With Denzel, we'll let the
DeMeco Ryans talking about Denzel Perriman.
He's appealing, so we'll see what happens there. If he has to miss time, we'll have our young guys step up and be ready to go. Part of the business. They hate to lose one of our starters, a good player, in Denzel, but we'll see what happens throughout the process today.
You've obviously been around this city for a long time, having played here. What does it mean to you to make the Texans relevant again and have people buzzing about the team around the city?
Yeah, we're excited about what our guys have done here to create the energy and the buzz around the city. I think our fans here in Houston deserve it. And so our guys have done a good job. Our fans done a great job of supporting us. We feel their support. We feel the energy when we're in our stadium. And we love our fans, love the support that they bring us. And, we're just excited to continue to go out another week, just go play good football, right? And I think we continue to play good football, the city will continue to be excited.
What are some of the things that you've seen on film with the Arizona Cardinals?
With the Cardinals, I think it starts with Kyler Murray. First and foremost, getting him back. You talk about an explosive, dynamic playmaker, the quarterback position, one of the premier athletes in the NFL right now. Does a really good job passing the football, but as we all know, him with his scramble ability, that's what won them the game this past week. So it's going to take everybody, right, to get him down, right? We have to be tight in coverage, and we have to, as we say, we have to cover him twice. We got to rush twice. We have to stay after him, right, because he's going to continue to keep plays alive. That's where he's thrived in the league of, extending plays. He's done a really good job of that. So we have our hands full, and he's been a really good player, but it starts there with their offense. Also with Connor, a physical runner, right? We have to step up. We have to tackle him. He's going to be a tough out, right? He's a physical runner. It's going to take more than one guy to get him down. But offensively, we have to, get after those two guys on offense. And then with their defense, they do a really good job with their scheme, multiple scheme, many different looks, right? Jonathan has done a really good job there with that defense, and they've been in a lot of games, kept them close. And so it's getting one of their best players back in Budda Baker. Since he's been back, he's been one of the best safeties in ball. Flies all over the field, sideline to sideline, instinctive player, always making plays.
Coach, is it more challenging prepping for a Cardinals team that's kind of had multiple quarterbacks in this season, doing different things offensively?
Talking about the prep without clear picture of what Kyler is.
For them, I go back to what Kyler does best. I think that's where their play caller, everybody, you got to do what the quarterback does best. So you look back at past film of what Kyler has done, I think that's where they'll live.
Difference between Kyler Murray and other dual threat quarterbacks.
Yeah, the difference in Kyler is just the speed, He has to be the fastest quarterback in the NFL. The speed is real, and when he's healthy, it's a problem. Right? And he has the ability. Most guys say step up in the pocket, but he has that ability to retreat back in the pocket and still circle the defense. So you talk about elusiveness, you talk about the speed, just a dynamic athlete.
After the, you've been most impressed about with CJ?
Say it again.
What have you been most impressed about with CJ?
With CJ, I think the thing that impresses me the most is just how the guys in the locker room, how he's won the locker room and the guys play for him. Guys truly believe in CJ. He exudes the confidence, and our entire team is confident, I think, because of what CJ has done.
After the Panthers game, you said that you need to learn how to handle success better.
Handling success, DeMeco Ryans. A lot of y'all can't hear the questions. I'm giving them to you.
So have you had another conversation, or what's that conversation like?
The conversation that comes about success and how you handle it is don't get the big head. We stay humble and we stay hungry. That's what it's all about. You stay humble, and that's the only way I know how to approach it, right? Just as much as people talk great about you, if something goes wrong, they'll be talking bad about you the next day, so you can't ride that wave. And I teach our team, we don't ride the ups and downs of the season. We prepare the same way each and every week, and we go out and play our best football on Sunday. That's all that matters. We can't get caught up in the headlines because headlines don't win you games. You got to go execute. You got to go play good football to win games, and that's the only thing that matters to us.
DeMeco, I apologize. I couldn't quite hear the first question, but were you surprised that the NFL had levied that suspension like that?
The suspension came out. It is what it is. Denzel is appealing it. We'll see what happens and what's the outcome of the situation later.
Outcome was 2 games, reduced by 1.
The rush together, can you expand just a little bit more?
Stutes, you just heard him here. Here he is, right here.
Sheldon last game. Can you expand on kind of what exactly that means? Is it just games the guys play, or just knowing the assignment that the other guy has?
And with our defensive line and how they rush, it all starts with our interior guys, right? We get pressure with our interior guys, and our edges guys, they thrive, right? But if guys aren't on the same page when it comes to communication, whether it's a game, stunts, blitzes, we just want all of our guys to be exactly where they're supposed to be, operating with precision in their footwork, their eyes, everything. It's all about being coordinated as 4 guys rushing together.
Against the Bengals, you guys had a few plays defensively that led to some explosive plays for the Bengals. What do you think you guys have to do to prevent some of those issues that popped up last week?
To prevent explosive plays, we just have to do our job. And it's as simple as that. When we do our job and we play well, we were getting 3 and outs, getting off the field, right? When we had any drop off and not doing our job, that's when the explosives happened. That's when guys got out and plays were being made. So we just have to reel it in, and you have to be consistent. Right? You have to stay consistent. You have to play together. It's all 11 playing together. When that doesn't happen for us, when it didn't happen in that game, that's when you saw explosive plays.
Along those same lines, Coach, how do you coach instinct and play call?
For me, you can't coach instincts. Guy either has instincts or he doesn't. Right? For the play call, we try to put our guys in the best position as possible. But everything that we do, it's all about the players and them being able to make plays. Us as coaches, we step out of the way. We try to put them in the best position possible. But it's all about the players. They're the ones who make any play call come to life by what they're able to do out on the field.
Take a few more. How do you build on what you guys started? You guys kind of progressed last week in terms of the run game. I know it starts up front. But how do you build on what's happening there?
You just continue to run it as best you can. I think each week is different depending on the defensive structures and what your opponent presents to you and how well you run it. We were able to have some success last week. It just doesn't happen the next week. You got to go out and earn it. Right? When it comes to the run game, you have to be physical up front, starting with the offensive line. You have to create displacement, and the backs have to be physical, running the ball downhill. That's what Motor did last week. Our offensive line did a great job of creating space for him, and that's why we had success in the run game.
How much does it help to have Nico Sunday's game? DeAndre Houston Carson had finished the game with, I think, the second most tackles. I was just wondering, what have you seen from him, and what is it to have someone like him to step up in the absence of Jerry?
It's been awesome having DeAndre. You talk about a veteran, true veteran who comes in, guy's been consistent, guy stepped right in, very smart guy. Does a great job of communicating, helping out, right? Petrie and the other guys in the back end. He's just a really smart player, plays with great effort, practices the right way, and it showed up, right? He had a great week of practice last week and showed up in the game. He was able to intercept the ball for us, but no play bigger than, DeAndre running, making the run for, I think that was Chase who caught the ball, but going and save us, right, not allowing him to get in the end zone, which allowed us to hold him to a field goal. For me, that's the play of the game, and it just shows the type of mindset that DeAndre has. It's just effort. He's always gonna do his job, always in the right place. So happy to have him.
DeMeco, having Nico Collins back on the field today, can that give a boost to the offense? And do you have an update on Noah Brown?
Yeah, we'll see where Nico is throughout the week, and Noah as well.
Take a couple more, John and John. What was kind of made in the offseason about the S2 test and CJ's quest? But I'm just curious why you feel comfortable, despite I know y'all don't subscribe to the S2 test, but I'm just curious why. I'm sure the noise was out there. I'm sure what gave you the confidence that get the S2 test. Right?
Yeah, for me, with any evaluation of prospects, like the thing is, you don't look at one thing and make a decision based off of one thing. It's, for me, you look at the tape and you watch CJ's film. You talk about playing quarterback. He's one of the best quarterbacks coming out in this draft based on the decision making on film, right? Speaking with him in person, getting to understand him, getting to know him better, personality, seeing how he treats others, seeing how his teammates love him, seeing the care they have for him, seeing how his coaches speak about him. Right, when you take all those things, right, into consideration, that's what helped me to make the decision.
DeMeco, you lost multiple players at every level of your defense, but your run defense keeps getting better. I think you're 8th now. How are you able, considering all the injuries you've had, continue to get better?
Now, with our run defense, it's about all 11. It doesn't matter who's out there. It starts with our edge guys doing a great job. Will, JG has done a great job of setting the edge, first and foremost, not allowing the ball to get outside. And whoever steps in, safeties, backers, nickels, we expect all of our guys to swarm to the ball and tackle. So we're not expecting one guy to make a play. So that's how you play great run defense. It's all 11 guys keeping the ball inside, all 11 guys swarming to the football. All right.
All right, there you go. It's DeMeco Ryans here in the locker room. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Thank you very much for doing so. Deshaun Watson out. That helps the Texans playoff situation. Helps the draft pick as well, although that's not where my mind was. Denzel Perriman, suspension reduced to 2 games. So he'll be back against Denver. We'll miss the Jacksonville game. They've already beat Jacksonville without him. And the injury report is out. Dameon Pierce out, among others, but got Nico Collins back. Should be fine. Please subscribe, like, right along. It is the Locker Room, #1 source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2, Sports Radio 610, and the Odyssey app. Thanks for coming through. When it comes to this Texan stuff, always remember we are all in it together. Talk to you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Special Texans guest straight off the practice field as well. 10 a.m. Central, Odyssey app, Twitch, YouTube, 10 a.m. Central to 2, #1 source for radio entertainment here in Texans radio entertainment here in H-Town. Appreciate you.
You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas